Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. We come together, O God, on this 33rd solemn remembrance of the men and women who died fighting in the wars of our country from the Revolution till now. They are of all races and ethnic groups and from all parts of the country, whether the country was 13 colonies or 50 states. They were buck privates and commanding generals and admirals with all ranks in between. Some died when the first shots were fired, others in the middle of the war, and still others during a war's last days. They had died in wars where we were united in purpose like World War II, as well as wars that bitterly divided us like the Civil War. We honor these people who gave their lives from the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Merchant Marines, and the Coast Guard. Some were returned home and buried with full military honors. Others are buried in our cemeteries around the world. Those whose remains have not been recovered are remembered here and in U.S. monuments and memorials in foreign lands.
I want to share something with you. Every year I give a little talk, but I saw this and I was so incredibly moved. I want to share this with you, if I may. Air Force Major Leo Thorsness, his name is Thorsness, waited more than 6 years for the Medal of Honor. Most of us refer to it as the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is incorrect. It is the Medal of Honor. It was awarded for his actions over North Vietnam on April 19, 1967. On that day, Thorsness and his wingman had successfully taken out 2 surface-to-air missile sites. But the second plane was hit by anti-aircraft fire. The crew ejected, and when a MiG-17 took aim at the descending parachutes, Thorsness turned his F-105 on the enemy jet and destroyed it with his Gatling gun. After a mid-air refueling, Thorsness returned to the area where the crew had landed safely, although in enemy territory. Now there were 4 MiGs. He was outnumbered, and he was almost out of ammo, and the target of a missile barrage from below. Thorsness engaged. He took down a second MiG and drove off the rest. Again, dangerously low on fuel, he saved another crew by allowing them to refuel from a nearby tanker, while he, from 35,000 feet, essentially glided to the Royal Thai Air Base 70 miles away, his engine shutting down just as he landed. Lieutenant Colonel Thorsness received his medal. A White House ceremony on October 19th 1973. Now you may ask, why such a long delay? Well, just 11 days after saving the lives of the parachuting crew, Thorsness was himself shot down by an air-to-air missile from a MiG. It was the beginning of an ordeal that would brutalize me, he wrote in his book, Surviving Hell. He would spend the next 6 years as a POW enduring torture. They broke his back. He was in solitary confinement and he was malnourished. Yet the horrific conditions did not break his spirit, nor that of his fellow Americans. The North Vietnamese had their bodies, but not their minds or their souls. They inspired each other to resist and came to appreciate their country even more.
All of these brave men and women from our own neighborhoods either volunteered or accepted the call to serve, fully knowing the challenges and the dangers that awaited them. They left the safety of their home to defeat our enemies, ensure justice, and fulfill the promise of safety and security for our country and the world. Our local heroes dedicated their lives not to conflict or death, but to peace and life. President Kennedy reminded us, a nation reveals itself not only by the men and women that it produces, but by the men and women it honors and remembers. So on this Memorial Day, which is set aside for the families who have lost their loved one, I believe we can best honor and remember the sacrifices of our fallen heroes and their families through a poem about a little girl named Amy who was in 2nd grade and she had to go to Daddy's Day at school. Her hair was up in a ponytail, her favorite dress tied with a bow. Today was Daddy's Day at school, and she couldn't wait to go. But her mommy tried to tell her that she probably should stay home. While the kids might not understand if she went to school alone. But she was not afraid. She knew just what to say, what to tell her classmates of why he wasn't there today. But still her mother worried for her to face this day alone. And that was why once again she tried to keep her daughter home. But the little girl went to school, eager to tell them all about a dad she never sees, a dad who never calls. At last the teacher called her name. Every child turned to stare. Each of them was searching for a dad who wasn't there. And with hands behind her back, slowly she began to speak. And out from the mouth of a child came words so very unique. My daddy couldn't be here because he lives so far away. But I know he wishes he could be, since this is such a special day. And though you cannot meet him, I wanted you to know all about my daddy and how much he loves me so. He loved to tell me stories. He taught me to ride my bike. He surprised me with pink roses and taught me to fly a kite. We used to share fudge sundaes and ice cream in a cone. And though you cannot see him, I'm not standing here alone, 'cause my daddy's always with me, even though we're apart. I know because he told me he'll forever be in my heart. With that, her little hand reached up and lay across her chest, feeling her own heartbeat beneath her favorite dress. And from somewhere in the crowd of dads, her mother stood in tears, proudly watching her daughter, who was wise beyond her years. And when she dropped her hand back down, staring straight into the crowd, she finished with a voice so soft, but its message clear and loud. I love my daddy very much. He is my shining star. And if he could, he'd be here. But heaven's just too far. You see, he's an American soldier and died just this past year when a roadside bomb hit his convoy and taught Americans to fear. But sometimes when I close my eyes, it's like he never went away. And then she closes her eyes and saw him there that day. Today, we honor and remember the sacrifices of so many of our great American families, like Amy and her mom, by understanding that through remembrance, America will remain the world's beacon of freedom. We understand that by honoring the families like Amy and her mother and remembering our veterans, America will continue to represent the aspiration and hope of millions of people throughout the world, that through hard work, perseverance, anyone can succeed in our just and fair society.